This podcast is brought to you by Rebecca Cassells of the Rising Dawn series. Do you like violence? Do you like smut? Are you tired of the stereotypical novels of werewolf romance out there and want something a little bit different? Then pick up Sparked Revolution, Book 1 in the Rising Dawn series by Rebecca Cassells. Available on Amazon, in Kindle, and paperback. You too can become a sponsor of Stories, the True and the Fictional by heading on over to buymeacoffee.com/STTATF or follow the link in the show notes. Hello guys and welcome to another episode of Stories, the True and the Fictional. It's another interview coming up. Ryan, are you glad we're doing these interviews much more now?
Yes, I'm very glad that we're doing this interview this early in the morning, but yes, I am good to go.
Yes,
You didn't ask me how I am.
Oh, well, I was going to get to that.
Okay.
But then I was worried you're going to just use my catchphrase, you know.
I am.
Ryan, how you going?
Oh, living the dream, mate. Living the dream.
Awesome. Well, guys, as you heard from the intro, this episode is brought to you by Rebecca Cassells. Check out her paranormal romance stuff. Check out Martin Kearns. He's our other sponsor for the urban fantasy. Really cool series he's done. Check out my books, Letters from the Emu War, the Wedding Night Trilogy, and yeah, let's get to today's episode. D.H. McCormack, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
It's a crazy time difference between us.
Yeah, it's definitely not early in the morning here. This is like normally my bedtime, if I'm honest. Like my kid will get me up at like 5 a.m. So I'm basically an old man at this point.
Yes.
But yeah, and just say you can call me Dan as well. Like
Dan.
I'm not gonna stand off formality and make you call me my initials.
DH. Yeah. That's
DH.
it.
Yeah.
So the question I've got to ask is, who is D.H. McCormack or Dan? Pick one.
Dan, yeah. It's interesting actually. I was thinking about how to answer this, and so the first thing to say is probably I am a Cornishman. Which is, so Cornwall, if you don't know, is like a little peninsula right on the far southwestern part of the British Isles. Farmland, fishing villages, old woodland, moors, all that kind of stuff. And half my family, my ancestors are all from here. Half of them were smugglers, and the other half were Christian ministers. So
Wow.
I think that kind of sums up me, if I'm honest.
Wow. So you quite literally live in a fantasy village almost, like the scape.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's pretty close to that. Like, you know, there's like old ruined like chapels with like holy wells and stuff like that people go visit, and all, you know, stone circles, and there's like, you know, I don't know, churches from the 800s and that kind of stuff still standing. And yeah.
It's awesome. So have you seen any people in your neighborhood just run down the street screaming, "I'm going on an adventure"?
See, it's me. I'm the one doing that. No, yeah. I'm going on an adventure.
Yeah. No, you're describing it all.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into these icebreakers that we give all our guests. How are you feeling, Ryan? You want to take the first one, or you want to take the second one?
I'll take the second one this time, seeing as I've taken the first, third, and fifth for the last couple of interviews.
Sweet. All right. Well, jumping right in. Dan, if you could get rid of one thing in the world, what would it be?
If we're talking like selfishly, I would absolutely get rid of cold minimalist like home interior decor, like the stuff that's like just like plastic and white and black and just, you know, dead basically.
Yeah.
I would actively force people to have character in their home.
Yeah. No, I can get behind that. It kind of reminds me of the couches from all the sitcoms where they have the plastic on the couch and they don't take it off ever. You know, like
no, yeah, it's like you go like I would love to be able to like sit here and relax, but I'm just kind of squeaking and sliding off.
Yeah. That's it.
No worries, Dan. Now tell me something that's on your bucket list.
I think I kind of feel like bucket lists are good things for people who are really exciting, and I am genuinely an old man at heart. So I think my actual honest answer would be like to one day have a small little like farmhouse, maybe a couple of like sheep and goats, and write some books, and just kind of like have some fires and just chill, really, like in the countryside. That is like bucket list dream for me.
So you're like 80% there already.
I'm in the vicinity of it. I'm in the vicinity of it. I just need about £500,000,
Yeah.
and then I'll be there.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
inherit some stuff,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. Controversial question. Ryan will judge you harshly on this this
Yeah.
question. There's multiple
I'm ready. I'm
answers
ready.
that you can give. But
Yeah.
what is the greatest sitcom ever made? And if that's not the one you watch the most or rewatch, which is the one that you love the most?
I think the one that I have the strongest connection with is Malcolm in the Middle. Do you
Ooh.
guys ever watch that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like that one. I don't, just something about like uh really dysfunctional family that genuinely care about one another, but it's just like absolutely crazy. And then there's also like part of my brain which likes to try and think of it as like a prequel to Breaking Bad because
Yes.
it's the same guy. Yeah.
I think didn't I saw a post about Bryan Cranston saying like what if they had this idea where he wakes up at the end and Lois is
Yeah.
in the
Just like,
bed next
what
to
are you
him?
doing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be
That's
good.
funny.
Just like bring it all together
Yeah.
like Inception style or something.
Yeah. He's such a good actor though. I love Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like and the
definitely.
way that yeah, the way that he can do comedy so well and
Yeah.
then do something like Walter
Yeah.
White is just yeah.
Yeah. Just mind blowing. Um,
His new show, Your Honor, is quite good too, where he plays a judge where his son accidentally kills someone driving. He reaching for his asthma puffer and he accidentally kills this person, but this person actually is the son of a mob boss. And it actually goes through the motions of him trying to help his son cover it up, but then obviously finding out that the person that he hit was the son of a mob boss, and it's a gritty. It's I think up to season 2 at the moment, so it's actually really good. So again, just
yeah.
fantastic acting by Bryan Cranston. So if you haven't seen it, I'd recommend you checking it out.
Yeah, no, that sounds really good.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so what is your zombie apocalypse plan?
So my grandfather, so where I am is a little peninsula, like I said, it's not very big at all. About 20 minutes drive from the coast. So my grandfather was a sailor and would sail like these like 32-foot sailing boats. So I think I would try and get my family and go down to one of those boats, um, and just kind of like hop around the coast, like go in for supplies, fish, get fresh water and stuff like that. But like try and do it on. I feel like swimming zombies is one of the one kinds of zombies I've not really seen. So I kind of like on the sea might be my best bet.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's right there. I know there's one movie where they walked across the bottom of the ocean. Um,
Yeah,
but but even then I don't think if you're not drawing too much attention to yourself, you won't,
yeah,
you
yeah. As
know,
long as I'm not like dragging one up on my fishing line, I'll be fine.
yeah, or you're playing loud music or something.
Yeah,
Well, I think they explored that a little bit on a season 2, I believe, of Fear the Walking Dead, which is like a
Mm.
Walking Dead spin-off of when that actually happened. And
yeah,
the only thing that actually got the people is that they just couldn't stay on the boat. They had to leave and go back on land, and then they ended up
Yeah.
getting eaten. So if they just stayed on the boat, they would have been okay. So that's a very, very good answer.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
You could even find a little island somewhere and start a
Mm.
farm, have some goats,
yeah.
and
That
chill out, and
I'll
then
be
achieve your
set.
bucket list at the same time.
Yeah. Zombie apocalypse? What zombie apocalypse? This is, just
Yeah.
chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. All right, the final icebreaker question, and probably the most fun.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Elon Musk calls you up and offers you to test drive his new electric time machine. What do you do? Where do you
Yeah.
go?
Yeah. I honestly, I think like I don't know, my actual honest answer to this is probably um just to see Jesus and his disciples. Like I know it's maybe a bit an oddball answer, but like just to be like there and just kind of see them interacting with each other
Yeah.
and like all the kind of crazy historical stuff that's happening around them at
Yeah.
the same time and
Yeah.
be pretty intense moment in history to go back and see.
And then you'd turn around, and then he'd slowly turn to you and look at you. You're
Yeah,
out of place.
yeah, yeah.
Or maybe just
Like,
wink.
yeah, just like, hey,
Like, I
you
know
could do like
you.
the finger guns kind of thing. Like,
And then you've got your
yeah,
camera ready, and it disappears.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome. No, that's a cool one. I mean, it was a
yeah,
very interesting time back then.
yeah,
I
for
don't
sure.
know how. I mean, I wouldn't be able to speak any of the language, so
Yeah, no, my Aramaic isn't very good. I can I can read a tiny bit of Hebrew, but that's not maybe not
yeah, you,
gonna get
you
me
just
very far.
learn the one word and just run around. Just
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Yeah.
Shalom. They're like, who are you? What are you doing here?
Just
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. I've got maybe the beard. Like if I cut my hair, maybe I'll be all right.
Yeah.
But the beard might help.
Yeah.
Might go a
Yeah.
little ways.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, we've moved through the icebreakers pretty quickly. But now let's get into the fun stuff. This podcast is brought to you by Martin Kearns and the Valor of Valhalla series. In the battle between two ancient evils, can one naive young man become the last hope against powerful creatures of legend? Beneath the Veil is the gripping first book in the Valor of Valhalla dark urban fantasy series. If you like reluctant heroes, infernal myths, and bloody epic clashes, then you'll love Martin Kearns' formidable foray into the unknown. So head on over to readkearns.com and grab yourself a copy of Beneath the Veil today. So tell us about your writing journey. Like, how did it start? Was it reasonably recent, or have you been doing it your whole life?
It's like kind of growing up, like my whole family are creative in different ways. Like my stepdad's an artist, and we were always kind of encouraged to make gifts for each other as kids for Christmas and stuff. So I did like a little bit of writing, like writing little stories and things like that for my brother's like Christmas presents and that kind of thing. Like I'd write us into like a little fantasy setting, and like like he'd be like a mage and I'd be like a kind of like long suffering like companion to the mage, all that kind of stuff. But I didn't really seriously start writing until about 3 years ago, really. Um, yeah, so that was kind of when I got into it. Um, but yeah, we were so me and my family were living overseas. We were working in Bosnia. And I just kind of like got to the point where I was like, there's only so many times I can replay Final Fantasy 9 or like rewatch my favorite movie. Like, and I can rewatch Lord of the Rings all the time. But like the point was like there's certain kind of a feeling that I get from stories that I was like, I'm just really struggling to find stuff which scratches that itch. And I was like, I could write one. So I just started like a little like world building project and writing little short stories and a little bits of flash fiction in this kind of like unfolding world. And just then it was a real coming together of like just different things that I was processing in my life as well and observing in the world around me. I was like, oh, well, I could work that into it. And then it just kind of like grew and grew and grew little by little. Um, and then it kind of just got to a point of the world building where I was like, all right, I could actually write something really cool with this. But yeah, that's kind of the origin story, I think.
Cool, cool. That's like me. I got into writing a little later in life, and I didn't plan to do it, but I just had a story to tell, and I thought, well, let's write a book. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
not knowing how to
yeah,
do it,
for
and
sure.
it's been a great journey. But before we dive in any further, there is a particular question that was coined by Amy Cormack.
Yeah.
It's called the Amy Cormack question. I'm going to guess that I know the answer to this, just from
Yeah, I think you
watching some of
probably
your
do.
some of your content. But maps in books, yay or nay?
Absolutely, a. Like they give you loads of cool stuff and you lose nothing by having them. Like
Yeah,
I think the only downside I could see to having a map in a book is if as a writer you're tempted to just kind of like lean too heavily on that
yeah,
being there to like you don't want the reader to need to look at the map to
yeah,
follow what's going on, but like I know. And yeah, there's just so much cool stuff that you can do with maps, not just like providing geographic information, but
Yeah,
like world building and tone setting and all those kind of
yeah,
things. It's just like another avenue you can use, so it's a cool thing you've got in your
yeah,
tool belt, you know.
yeah. Did you so with Tales of Teltra, did you use a map to kind of build that world, or was it kind of like you built a world and then you thought I better reference stuff?
Is yeah, I think it was more like I kind of had the ideas for different cultures and different like conflicts and events and stuff like that. And then but still quite early on then it was like, okay, I need to map this out. So I went through like 3 or 4 different iterations of like how I wanted it laid out and how I wanted it to look and just to like make it work with the kind of history and story I was thinking of, you know. But it was definitely like the cultures came first
Mm,
and then I kind of mapped out geographically um where they would all kind of sit and how they would sit together and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
awesome. Well, let's talk about how you've chosen to write. Was it called serialized fiction?
Yeah, serialized
Yeah,
fiction. Yeah. Yeah.
it's just such a cool concept. Like it's just like it doesn't put. It sounds like it doesn't put too much pressure on you because you've only have to do bit by bit instead of here's a tome. You know?
Yeah. 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 I think
Yes.
it's one of those I think there's a lot of really cool things about it and there's like a lot of like things about it that I think it's just not one format is for everyone. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like some
Yeah.
people want to just like get a book and they just want to know that the story's finished and they can just sit down and just like power through it,
Yeah.
and not talk to anyone else and just focus on the
Yeah.
kind of the story. And they're not like super people aren't always super interested in interacting with authors and all that kind of stuff. Whereas what I found with like the reason I've chosen to do serialized fiction, there's a lot. I mean, I can literally like ramble at you for ages about this, but I'll try really hard not to do that. But like, one of the things is that it kind of gives me the chance to collaborate a lot more with. We have a artist and a musician and an audio narrator who we all work
Yeah.
together. So I'll write the episode and then I'll hand it to them, and then they'll create like the audio narration and a piece of artwork and a piece of music. And then each month we'll put out that as like a kind of a package kind of thing. But it just gives you that because I'm creating month by month, it just makes the whole process feel a lot more collaborative. Like we have back and
Yeah.
forth. Like there are sections of the storyline, um, like that were influenced by like me having a conversation with the musician about like how that episode's music was going to go
Yeah.
and what kind of like in-world language we use for the lyrics and all that kind of so all that kind of stuff. But that worked its way into the story as well. So there's like definitely this kind of back and forth. And then it just gives I think it just gives you a cool opportunity to just be a bit open and transparent about the process with anyone who's reading it who wants that as well, that kind of
Yeah.
like insight and to feel like they're part of not
Yeah.
like they have the responsibility to tell the story or create the world, like it's still being created for them, the story's being told for them,
Yeah.
but they feel more connected with that like kind of unfolding. But yeah, that's my
Yeah.
short version. Yeah,
Now the long version. No.
yeah,
Um.
yeah. I
That's pretty
prepared a
cool.
PowerPoint. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, because I listened to the first two episodes, and I'm like,
Oh, cool. Oh, thanks, man.
it's just really good quality. Like from the music, like the music is very fantasy,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
so who does the voiceover? Because he's great.
He's awesome. So actually, so the voiceover is my friend called James Horton, and he
Yeah.
also runs a podcast as well,
Oh,
which
cool.
is how like we grew up together. So
Oh,
me, the musician, and the audio narrator, we all grew up together as like young spotty teenagers, like
yeah.
playing D&D and not having
Yeah.
girlfriends. That was like, do you know, like it's
Yeah.
basically like our, you know.
Yeah.
So I really lucked out with some amazing friends, pretty
Yeah.
much.
So you started a sort of band, like it's the
Kind
unconventional
yes,
band. Yeah.
a fellowship, if you will.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
What was that? There was a I don't know if you know Babylon Bee, but they had an article come out about saying that the government doesn't says there's no rule against you forming a fellowship and going off on an adventure or something like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
It's like
nice.
everyone should have a fellowship.
Everyone should have a fellowship. I think that's a good slogan.
Yes. All right.
Yeah,
Title of the episode. No.
yeah, yeah. Everyone should have a fellowship.
Um. Yeah. So. Do you see yourself ever putting this all into a book under one cover, or at some point, or?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, so because I'm writing it episodically, meaning each it's not structured narratively like a book in the sense that I feel like with a book you've got a bit more leeway. Like each chapter can kind of flow one into the other, whereas with episodes, like it has to be like there has to be like a beginning, middle, and an end to each
Yeah,
episode, like in a narratively satisfying way, but that builds together. And there are some books which are written like that. So like The Hobbit is a
yeah,
really good example,
yeah,
where each chapter is like its own little self-contained adventure within the bigger
yeah,
context. So I would love to, what I would really probably love to do is like because I'm publishing through Patreon at the
yeah,
moment in the monthly episodes, and that's like if people really want to be kind of have like a see the process and be part of that and get
yeah,
everything as it's being made and all that kind of stuff. But then right at the end, I like probably put it together in like in just like in one book, probably about something about the same length as Lord of the Rings is kind of like what I'm shooting for. Um so that's gonna take me 6 years though.
yeah,
So
yeah,
at my current rate of one
yeah.
episode a month, that would take 6 years. So
Do you have an end in mind for these characters, and like, do you have like
yeah.
a point they're going to, or you just playing it by ear?
No, yeah. So basically the way that this story developed that I'm writing right now is I actually started off. I started off going. I'm gonna write a trilogy of novels because it was fantasy. So clearly, I had to write a
Yeah,
trilogy of novels.
yeah,
Um, and as I was kind of like trying to like flesh out the world and stuff, I was like, oh, I should really do some world building and some history, like write out the history of what happened
yeah,
up to that point. And I was like, actually, like the history that I'm writing out is way more narratively compelling than the
yeah,
ideas that I've got for this trilogy. And I was like, what if I just did a series like of episodes about that was based on the history, if that makes
yeah,
sense. So that's like so in a way that um I've got like big historical events that happen throughout the
yeah,
course of what's going to be the Tales of Teltra.
yeah,
And I've basically just picked three really distinct characters who are interesting viewpoints on everything that's going to happen.
yeah,
And then I've kind of come up with a theme for each character of like what their story is overall about. And then I'm just kind of like I'm like, okay, I know that the next big thing that's happening is this. I know that they all kind of need to be there for that, or that this person
yeah,
needs to be there. And so, but then I'll have a lot of freedom about getting from point A to point B,
yeah,
and knowing that so I've got like a plan for like hopefully how to make it feel narratively
yeah,
satisfying as a whole thing,
yeah,
but trying to give myself freedom like month by month.
yeah. So you're almost like half plotter, half pantser.
Yeah,
Like,
a
like,
plantzer.
yeah,
Like I like to think of it like in a garden if you've got like a trellis, like you put like this like grid on the wall and then a
yeah,
vine will grow onto it so
yeah,
that there's a
yeah,
structure but it's not restrictive, like
yeah,
it's there to support but not to control
yeah.
too much.
That's how I operate too.
Yeah, I like that a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, because I wrote a historical fiction, uh,
Mm,
which is it's a fictionalized. I don't know. It's hard. There's a real event in Australia where we declared war on emus and lost.
yeah.
Utterly true story. So I
Yeah,
took that and told it from the perspective of emus, but I had to
nice.
plot it like these are the series of events, and then I had to create fictionalized letters from emus to put in between the
That's so
events.
cool.
So it
That's
is
a really cool
random.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Um,
brilliant.
yeah, it's very popular in schools, I found.
Okay.
Yeah, I keep getting emails from America, and there was
Yeah.
a school about 3 hours from me that was like, just bought a class set. Do you have a study guide? You know,
Yeah, it's like I
Just
could
like,
do.
I could. I got a friend in America. One of our sponsors, Martin Kearns, he's bought a class set for his kids, and he's working on
Yeah,
study guide. So
yeah. Oh,
eventually, that
awesome.
will come to be.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a cool idea.
and that
That's
was
so
my
good.
first book, and I'm like, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Amazing.
random. Ryan, do you want to do some talking?
Yeah. So I had a question in relation to obviously, the serialized writing. This may be a silly question, but I'm not a writer, so forgive me. So because you're releasing it on Patreon and it's behind a paywall and everything like that, do you feel like if, the people that are buying it sort of comment on a certain event in the actual the serialized book, you have that freedom to sort of go, okay, I'm going to take it in a little bit of a different direction because one character is more popular than another? Or are you, no, this is exactly what I've got planned out. This is what I'm going to go with. I suppose
Yeah.
for me, you would have more freedom to sort of make changes on the fly depending on, how the fans react, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. Like, so I think that like there are some like non-negotiables, like stuff that I definitely won't change.
Mhm.
Like I said, I have like these key historical events and these moments that are happening, like that are going to happen. So those have to happen,
Mhm.
so that's not optional. Like, I think that, I don't think I'd ever want someone reading it to feel like, I would worry it'd be immersion breaking if they could like say like, oh, I prefer if this would happen, please, or I want this to happen. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that would be like then you're not being told a story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
like, I definitely, I can't say that I won't, like, because I think naturally if you're talking with like people who are enjoying the story, and something really resonates, like I've had conversations with people reading it and they're like, oh, this thing really resonates, and this, like, like I really related to this aspect of it. That's going to be more in the forefront of my mind when I come to write the next episode with that character. So it's just naturally going to have an effect. It'd be impossible for it not to in some way, you know. But I definitely would want it. I would never want it to feel like the story's just waving all over the place and
Yeah.
it's all just like up in the air and it could just be whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Choose your own adventure.
Yeah, I did. I tried doing that on Instagram once. Like, I did like a little series of reels when you'd have to vote what would happen next, and it
Oh,
was
it's
fun
awesome.
actually, but it just took a lot of time. So I just, yeah, yeah,
But I suppose in that retrospect, it'll be, your experience with you said obviously growing up with your friends and played D&D like me and Jamie and our friends play D&D.
yeah,
That would be an advantage because obviously with our DM or GM, he's got these certain plot points set out. And then, obviously you've got to be willing to, not you per se, but with the D&D campaign, you've got to be willing to be flexible because, we could completely, and 9 times out of 10 we do, completely do the opposite thing of what he's expecting. And then therefore he's like, I've got all this story that I just have to throw out and restart because of what
Yeah.
you guys have done. Now, obviously,
yeah,
it's not that
no,
involved and not that, you don't have that many inputs, but I suppose it is a good thing to be able to, just sort of slightly adjust, the way. So if a certain character is getting a lot of good
yeah,
feedback, and you can sort of go, okay, I'm going to not necessarily change the outcome of the story, but I'm going to delve into them,
hmm
their history or
yeah.
their actual personality a little bit more.
One thing that I am trying to work on doing is like with each episode I put out, I then give like options to the people who are reading it. Like, do you want a bonus map? Do you want a bonus short story about this character or a bit of flash fiction about this thing that's all related to that episode? So that people get to like kind of like vote for what they're more interested in. That makes sense. So they get like a little something extra. So that at the end it'd be like a whole collection of like appendices almost of like, like I've got some folk songs from one of the nations like that's important to one of the characters that I've
Wow.
written out, and like I've got like a map of one character's like home, like farm where he grew up and that kind of thing, and then I did like some little short stories about these hunters that go into this like really dangerous forest, and, like, but like these like little elements that people get to vote for, just like fun things that you can do like that when you're doing it serialized,
Yeah. Extras, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, like bonus features kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. Which,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. The
which,
the, ex the extended edition, like
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah. Well, you're kind of selling me on it now. It's that's
yeah,
such a cool
yeah,
idea. Yeah, because like, what would it take Tolkien 10 years to write Lord of the Rings or something ridiculous?
yeah, yeah, for
And
sure.
you just kind of like, ah, stop selling me on it. Or maybe you should.
I'll win you over. I'll win you over.
Win me over. Yeah. So, where did the idea itself for Tales of Teltra come from? Like the characters and the story, I guess.
Yeah, I think like so when like I said, me and my family, we were living and working in Bosnia for about 5 years. And I think part of it was just like a real nostalgia for Cornwall, for the UK where I grew up, the kind
Mm.
of like the gentle rolling hills and the, the old like little pockets of old woodland and all that kind
Yeah,
of stuff. And Bosnia is much more like it's Balkan country, so it's got mountains, it's very hot in the summer, very cold, like lots of snow in the winter, pine forests, beautiful country, and like really messy history politically and a lot of violence and that kind of stuff. Um, and I think it was like I had this nostalgia for what I grew up with, and then also this kind of like love for the country where I was living in Bosnia,
mm,
and they just kind of like melded together in the context of like me like deciding to want to write this story. Um, the like, and then it's also just like a good chance. Like the things that I really want to explore in it are things like our relationship with the natural world,
yeah,
like as human beings, in the like either one of confrontation or one of like cooperation, that kind of
yeah,
thing. The relationship between religion and power and politics, and how the things which are most sacred to us and form the deepest parts of who we are and identity can be used very cynically and used to manipulate us and that kind of thing.
mm,
And then also like it's a real love for the like simple life, for home, and like how horrible an experience it is to lose that and to try, and
yeah,
then how hard it is to fight to try and recreate that. So those are like the kind of the main themes, if you want, like those are the things I
yeah,
really wanted to do. And then I just had the like different ideas, like um in in Teltra, the main religion, like this order of sages, and they can manipulate the wind. And it's seen as like pure and holy and good, and clean almost, to like
mm,
to use wind magic. And it's like connecting like with like earthy, dirty like
yeah,
trees and caves, and everything is seen as very like ugh, kind of taboo kind of thing. Um, but there's going to be things emerging throughout the storyline, which is like people interacting with those other elements
yeah,
magically, and how that kind of like pull and tug and pull is and that kind of thing. So um, yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
I feel like I've gone off
Yeah.
topic a little bit, but
No, no, we are all about the tangents on
yeah,
this podcast.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that's the longest one's like two and something hours. Um,
Oh, cool.
so
Okay. All right. Oh, fine then. Good. All
it's
right.
free range. It's free range. But I do have.
Okay.
I'm
Cool.
assuming that you're a Tolkien and a C.S. Lewis fan. Are you a fan of both?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. More Tolkien than Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
got that
I
vibe.
like. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Lewis's like his sci-fi trilogy,
Mm.
and like his his more academic like theological stuff, and that kind of that kind of stuff is The Great Divorce is a really really cool little booklet. And
Yeah.
but yeah, no, for Tolkien, like in terms of approach to fantasy
Yeah.
storytelling, very much
Yeah.
prefer Tolkien's kind of
Yeah.
like just general like ethos,
Yeah.
the way he goes about it.
Yeah, because I know you're a man of faith, and so I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
like, do you? Because let's face it, Narnia is very on a little bit on the nose. It's great, but it's
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
see that lion? Do you know who that lion is? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah. Right.
like I said, both
Sounds
brilliant.
like Hebus. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I love Lewis. I've been like the
Yeah.
book I've been meaning to get to for a long time is Screw Tape Letters because that's supposed to be brilliant.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, like I grew up on Narnia, the horrible, and this is no offense to the British people, but
Yeah.
that 80s show like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about? It was so bad. It was so bad. Like,
We did a lot of that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Like, yeah. Yeah.
That little girl just wasn't adorable like the one in the what they do in 2000 and whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now it's going to get ruined again by Netflix. I think it's Netflix are doing it, you know,
Oh gosh, who knows, man? Like
by someone who does not care about the source material, you know?
yeah, I've lost a lot of faith for um like adaptions of
Yeah.
fantasy classics, Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Hollywood
yeah,
needs to get their act together. Um,
yeah, seriously. Well, I have a theory about this, but if you want a
mm.
tangent, this is a
Oh, yes,
tangent.
go. Let's go.
So the cost of movie production gone way like it's just gone crazy. Like so
Yep.
producing movies like commercially is really costs a lot. So they have to kind of go for what do we feel confident is going to appeal to the widest number of people
Yeah.
so we can at least try and make our money back. Which then you end up with just really like smooth, sanded edges, like nothing, no real character to it. There's
Yeah.
no depth. That it's just kind of like a story paint by numbers because they're like, well, if we can just make the next Avengers or whatever,
Yeah.
like then that's good enough, you know.
Yeah.
But there's no real like the Lord of the Rings trilogy was a risk. Like,
Yeah.
you know, they had to like really, and I think Peter Jackson tricked them into doing it actually, the
Yeah.
studios. So like, but I do really think that there's a real problem with how much it costs to produce stuff, and
Yeah.
then how that forces people into to just like they're not willing to risk stuff. They're not
Yeah.
willing to risk to create something
Yeah.
different and new. They just want to stick
Yeah.
with what they know is going to work.
Yeah. But then there's always stories of people using hardly any budget and making phenomenal amounts of money.
Yeah.
I think Blair
Yeah.
Witch Project was one of those. It cost like hardly anything.
Yeah.
To bring it round to
Paranormal Activity as well. That was $26,000 to make, and I think it made like 200, $300 million
yeah.
at the cinema. You know, the first two movies were just insane because before they sold off the rights, they did it for under $50 million, both of them.
Yeah.
And they all made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And then I think the biggest one was Mel Gibson, Passion of the Christ, $60 million budget or something like that, and made 700 million. You know,
wow.
like
Okay.
to make your money back, you've got to triple it essentially. So if your movie
Yeah.
cost $200 million to make, you need to make $600 million
Mhm.
to break even. You know,
Wow. Flipping
um,
heck, man.
so and then
I like writing stories. Writing is great.
yeah, well it is
Yeah.
because you can bring it to life in a more cost-effective way, I guess, you know.
Yeah, and also just like again to like plug my way of doing it, like because I've come collaborating with friends and we share any
Yeah.
money that we make from it.
Yeah.
Like literally all it costs us is time
Yeah.
to make the episodes and put them out there, you know. And yeah, all we need is 1,500 members on the Patreon, and then we'll be able
You
to
can
go full time with it.
retire.
Yeah, we can retire, but yeah.
All
Yeah,
right, and
yeah.
how many you got now? Was it about 50? Was it or
Well, yes, well, no. So I got like there's like 60 including free members. There's like 20
Yeah.
paid members at the moment.
Okay.
But like it's like to be honest, even if I do this for the next 6 years in my spare time and we get nothing more than like 50 people or whatever, like it's still just a real I would write it even if no one read it. Like I
Yeah.
just like I really need to write this story.
Yeah.
It's really important to me.
yeah,
And I'm just really glad if people can read it and get something from it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, of course, I'm not gonna lie. Of course, I would love to be able to earn enough for my writing
Yeah.
to do that full time.
Yeah.
Like, who wouldn't? But that's not the primary motivator.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
you've got to do it for yourself. I mean, that's why I write. Like, not many people read my stuff. I mean, the indie book sells, obviously.
Yeah.
That's been doing well, but I didn't write that to make coin or anything. It's a
Yeah,
funny
yeah.
story. I had to do it. It was going to be a movie. The movie fell through, and then I went book. You know,
Yeah.
and it's just you got to do it for yourself.
For
Gotta have
sure.
that love.
Like, yeah, it's got to come from a place of like, this story is important to me, and I
Yeah.
need to do this. Rather than like,
Yeah.
if it's about trying to get some kind of validation or ego
Yeah.
or like, even if it's about trying to get money, you're definitely not gonna
You definitely
get
have to
very
do
far.
it. Yeah.
You're gonna give up pretty quickly. You know, like, yeah,
Well, I can, as I said, I'm not a writer, but I can attest, I was a musician for 20 years. And, if we did it for the money, we would be very, 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 very broke.
Yeah.
We did it because we for the love of the music, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, it was a passion thing that I really enjoyed getting together with these guys and making music. And, I think we had 3 EPs and 1 album. And, I didn't care if the album didn't sell because I've still got it and I can still look back on that and have fond memories of everything. And I assume that's very similar to the
Yeah.
way you guys write. You know, you don't do it for the money. Great if the money comes in, awesome.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like you said, you've got a story to tell, and you want that story out there. And whether a million people read it or 20 people read it, if those 20 people have read it and they're passionate fans about it, then you've made a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you never know, like
Yeah.
10, 15 years down the road, someone might be walking in a secondhand bookshop, pick up one of the books and then go, "What is this?" And then it just explodes, you know?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah.
You
Or
never
was
know.
it like was it like How to Lose the Time War? That some random person like on Twitter just tweeted out like, "Buy this book. I'm not going to explain it," and then it just like that tweet went nuts, and then the book went nuts. It's just like
Yeah.
it's just absolutely random. You know,
Yeah.
you can't like
Yeah.
you can't make that happen.
Well,
it is what
there's
it
a
is.
story here from Australia. I'm pretty happened in Australia, but about
Yeah.
could have been 20, 30 years ago, where someone put an ad in the paper, said, "Send $1 here," and that's all it said.
Yeah,
Send $1
yeah,
to this address or whatever, and their guy ended
yeah.
up getting $5,000 in dollar coins.
Like, all right.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I think some law got passed to say like you can't ask for money without something in return or something. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
intrigue. I know
Yeah.
we live in a QR code world now, so probably just stick a QR code somewhere, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Or
Someone
like
will click on it.
stick my QR code over other people's QR codes so that people just end up going to my stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a bit mean. All right.
That is a bit mean. Yeah. 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 That's like getting into scam territory, isn't it?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
because who knows? It might be like that show that Ryan was talking about. You might have scammed a mob boss. You
Yeah.
know?
Exactly. We
And
don't
then
we don't want that. You know,
yes.
the mob bosses of Cornwall, that's
No, so Cornwall would be pretty small, yeah? Like small.
yeah.
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 Because the town I live in is 13 streets, not even 2,000 people. Everyone knows
Okay.
everyone. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like
It's
they're gonna,
majority like that. There's like
yeah,
some larger towns, like maybe 10,000, but like,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
No, because I literally grew up with drug dealers a few doors up,
Cool.
you know. And the irony of that whole thing is that we used to dress up as ninjas and try to protect the neighborhood, you know, when we were kids. And we're going like, "Where's the crime?" And we're going, "Well,
Yeah.
it's back at
Next
your
door.
house."
Yeah. Nice.
Yes. I think we mentioned that on our like very first. No, was it the second episode? No, it was the very first episode of this podcast
I think
when it
so.
was
Mhm.
when it was a much different podcast. I'm glad we chose a very loose name because
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's evolved
Yeah.
so many
Stories.
times. Yeah,
Yeah.
stories. True and the fiction. That I get that. That's why I did it. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
you go.
it's smart.
Whenever someone finds this podcast and they go back to the start because you can see all the downloads coming, they're like they're in for a journey.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, they can grow with us, they can go on
It'd be
a
like
journey of discovery.
it'd be like Tales of Teltra suddenly turning into a sci-fi paranormal adventure or whatever. Like they take
Yeah.
off to
And
space.
then the aliens arrived.
Yes. Yeah. And then people really like the alien stuff and then go back to the start and go, "What is this?" You know?
This, yeah. Yeah.
Do you see
Cool.
yourself breaking away from Tales of Teltra, doing a similar thing with a different story?
I actually have other stories that I want to write, but they're more like just smaller scope stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like I have this little list of back burner project ideas about like if I ever get to the point where I'm writing fast enough that I could do an episode a month and a little bit of something extra, then I would love to be able to work on something else. Like I have this idea. There's where I live, there's a little village called St. Neots, and it's named after a guy who was like a kind of monastic kind of guy there in the 800s.
Mm.
And there's like a whole bunch of legends about him to do with like some cattle thieves came and stole his oxen. So then
Yeah.
the stags of the forest all came out and helped him plow his fields. And there's loads of like little legends like that. And I was like, it'd be really cool to do like a fantastical retelling of like his kind of story. But like bit linked in with like there's a bunch of like King Arthur stuff around
Oh,
there.
cool.
And also the first King of England in the 800s, he knew St. Neot. And then also the last King of Cornwall, knew Saint Neot and was drowned in a river near him. So there's all these like historical things happening around this guy. And he's not like super well known or anything, but I just thought it'd be really fun to do like a to like kind of do a fantasy like riff on it. Do you know what I mean? Like not have to stick too close to the stories or the history, but just more
Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Exactly. Yeah. Saint Neot. I don't know. Zombie hunter. I don't know.
Warlock. I don't
Warlock.
know.
Yeah. Oh, maybe not. Yeah.
Maybe not. No.
Yeah.
I remember you mentioned at the start that you played and finished Final Fantasy IX quite a few times. Is that your favourite out of the series, or have you played a lot of the? Me personally, I played every single one except for the online one, which is 11 and 14. But is that your favourite of the series?
It's a good question. I weirdly like I really enjoy the tone and like just the feel of nine, like the kind of the world that it is and the music that goes with it and everything like that. That's my favorite in terms of that. In terms of just chilling out and just some gameplay that's fun and just really relax, I actually quite like 12. I know it's maybe not like the most I think people didn't really love that one for the battle system, but I actually quite like it. And yeah, again, like the world is really interesting. I didn't love the story, the finale for 12, but so yeah, maybe 9 is my favorite overall. Yeah, I definitely prefer it to 8.
9 gets back to its real fantasy roots. Like it's you've got I started on 7, which was it's what came out when I was just getting into gaming. So obviously I'm a massive fan of 7. I loved 8. A lot of people didn't like it because of the junctioning system and everything like that. But with 12 and the battle system that changing, a lot of people were like, I suppose that was kind of the first foray into action RPG kind of thing. A lot of people didn't like it because you've gone from, say, if you were like me and skipped 11, you've gone from 9, which is a great foray back into the fantasy world after 7 and 8, and then you've got 10, which is again quite well set in the fantasy, and 10 is one of my favorites. And then to go to 12, which is a completely different battle system. I think a lot of people were scared off by that, but me, I was just like, okay, cool. And then from 12 to 13, a similar battle system as well, keeping in that. And that's kind of where it went action RPG. And then obviously with the latest one with 16, it's complete action RPG. And a lot of people didn't like that, but I kind of liked it because, it came back to the whole summoning and all that kind of thing. I quite enjoyed 16 and could probably talk about it for quite a while. But, look, I agree with 9. 9 is my go-to when I just want pure fantasy. And I really like the system where, with the equipment, you learn stuff with the equipment rather than your level.
For sure.
Which was really, really interesting. And the characters are just fantastic. It's a typical Final Fantasy. You've got characters that are completely mismatched and, they end up working together, to essentially save the world. So,
the whole Steiner and Vivi relationship is excellent. I think,
Oh, definitely. You've got with Zidane and Steiner, they hate each other and, obviously it's like you're kidnapping the princess and all that kind of stuff. But then if you see the relationship between Vivi and Steiner evolve throughout that game, it's just fantastic. I play it probably once every couple of years.
It's a good one. It's a good one. It's a good one, man.
Oh, definitely. Again, tangents, but...
it's a good tangent.
Yeah,
I did remember that from your intro, and I thought I need to.
You've been sitting there the whole time going, "Where can I bring it in? Where can I bring it in?"
Yeah.
How can I segue into?
Well, it is rare that I meet fellow Final Fantasy fans in real life, kind of thing. Like on the internet, and everything's different. Like one of our friends, Chris, is a big Final Fantasy fan, and it's just very rare that I meet someone who has played games other than Seven. Like a lot of people are into
Yeah.
Seven with the remake and Rebirth and everything, which are great games. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Sticking with the action RPG kind of thing, but it's very rare to meet anyone that hasn't sort of gone, oh, Seven is my favorite, which is fine. A lot of people grew up on Seven, but it's nice to talk about the other ones too.
Yeah, oh, for sure, for sure. Like, I think thinking about it, if I had to give a second place, it would probably go to 6 as well. Like,
Six is a. I've just started, or not started. I played the Pixel remasters, so I got them on my PC. Reliving Six is good because of the way that it just you shifted the stories. You know, you had a group of characters you're following, and then you split, and then you get to choose which way you want to go, and then you get to, I really agree with that, definitely.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, just remember when you do a segue, Ryan, you just go, speaking of Final Fantasy. So, are you in, and then you change subject. It's that simple. It doesn't have to make sense. Are you a Skyrim fan?
Yeah. Oh, I never like played through all of it. Like I think it's just something like I've got something like 50 hours in it total. I think like one summer I kind of like ended up doing a sneaky archer guy like everyone does.
Yeah.
I did that. Yeah. But that was cool. That's another game with really good atmosphere. Like really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, because way back when it came out, so probably 2011, I think it was. It came out on our mutual friend Chris's birthday.
Yeah.
And I think there was 3 of us. We got 3 TVs, 3 PlayStations, and 3 copies of Skyrim, and all went into one room and played it for 3 days straight.
That's awesome.
And
oh man.
anytime we left the house, which was rare, all we could hear was ambience. Like,
Yeah.
And it was just like, I don't ever want to do that again. Like, it was so bad, like so stuffy and
like my brain has been altered by this experience.
Yes, it has. At the same time, I'm glad I did it, but I don't ever want to do it again.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Unless we bring everything outdoors and we do it outside, the fresh air.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Tell us your Patreon and your socials and plug yourself, essentially.
Yeah, so basically I am Tales of Teltra everywhere. So it's patreon.com/Tales of Teltra, TELTRA. And that's what I put up. The first 3 episodes you can just listen to them for free if you want to just check them out. And then apart from that, I'm most probably active on Instagram under DH McCormack, but also Tales of Teltra, you'll find me with that as well. But yeah, I think that's all my bits and bobs.
Cool, sweet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So guys, thetrueandthefictional@gmail.com if you want to reach out, if you want to come on for a chat. We do have a bit of a queue at the moment. But definitely reach out and we'll sort out a time to get you guys on. Yeah. Catch you next time.
See you next time.
In 1932, the Australian Army declared war on 20,000 emus and lost. It's a part of Australian history that not many know about. Maybe that's because history is written by those who win. So if you want to hear the full story of the Great Emu War of 1932, then check out my book, Letters from the Emu War. Read letters, newspaper articles, and journal entries. With every turn of the page, you will gain a deeper understanding of the life and times of emus at war. So head on over to jabryden.com and grab a signed copy today.